Hey everyone, in this video, going to be going through a little bit of a dry run as far as how I prepare every morning for the markets. Hopefully it's some useful insight as to what a full-time day trader does every day getting ready for the markets. Certainly everybody's different. Interested to hear what your most important aspect of your routine might be. And here's my routine.
So this is what it looks like outside when I wake up these days at 6:22. I certainly prefer the summer when it's more aligned with sunrise, and that's something that I've carried with me ever since road tripping, living out of my car and backpacking for 7 months around the country. It was definitely much easier to just align with what the sun was doing. I go to bed shortly after the sun goes down, and I wake up when the sky is first changing shades into sunrise. And then I carried that over into farming when I worked full year on the organic full production farm in Maine. It was the same thing. So I definitely like the summer better, and I'm looking forward to daylight savings because working for 2 hours in the morning before the sun even comes up is definitely a bit odd for my body. So I'm the kind of person that as soon as the alarm rings, I'm not laying around in bed and snoozing it and rolling over. I'm literally awake and out of bed seconds after the alarm rings, and I don't really have a whole lot of time these days in between waking up and working. I literally wake up, take a drink of water, and I'm on my computer 5 minutes later starting to catch up on things and get ready for the morning. And it hasn't always been like that. When we started the Chart Guys, when I was living on the community homestead, we had a little routine where we would do a little silent tea ceremony every morning. So sometimes I do enjoy a little bit of catch-up time to change from dreaming into the waking world, but these days I just hit the ground running, and that will probably change in the near-term future as my routine shifts every 3 or 4 months or so. So for me, I love my morning routine. It's very easy for me to get up and get going and get out of bed. And as an example of that, today's Sunday, and here I am recreating my routine of what I'm going to do all this coming week because I don't want to be recording when it's an actual work day and throwing off my flow. But one thing I want to talk about in terms of time and perception and routine. So something that I definitely learned very quickly when I was taking care of goats and farming and chickens and all that is that animals are most comfortable when they have routine. They get fed at the same time in the same place, and if it's the more consistent it is, the more comfortable it is. And when that consistency changes, they get uncomfortable and thrown off a little bit. So as far as trading goes, if I want to be consistent every single day, and I want to be in my flow every single day, routine is very important for that. But I'm also aware that not all time is created equal for me. So I think our perception of time can dictate whether time goes fast or slow. I don't think an hour in this situation under these circumstances is the same as in a different situation. And my best example of that is when I was road tripping around, every single day was different and I didn't know what the next day held. I knew on my piece of paper that I was going to this place because 6 months ago I read an article that this was a cool place to hike. But other than that, I would just know I'm getting here at 11, I'm gonna hike 4 hours, I'm gonna set up camp and explore. And that was it. So every single day was new sensory input, and every day was vastly different from the previous day. So that summer of 7 months lasted an extremely long time as far as my perception of time goes. And if I am in a routine and doing the same thing every day, and this Monday is the same as last Monday is the same as last Monday, it's very easy for that time to speed up. And that's definitely something that I take into account because I don't want my life to fly by. And people that work a 9 to 5 and have the same routine for 2 decades, their life can fly by to them. And it's important to change it up, in my opinion. So not only will I try and travel as much as I can, but just changing my routine. So every 3 or 4 months, I will change my routine, mostly based on the season and whether there's stuff to be doing outside, whether it's watering plants or prepping beds, or if it's the winter, I obviously need new routines, whether it's stretching or hopefully hot tub routine. This is going to start being incorporated soon. But the bottom line is finding a routine that's very comfortable is absolutely important, but also not just falling into that zombie-like routine and having your life flash by is also extremely important to me. So this is my little altar space in my trading room, and every morning after I wake up, within the first 5 minutes, I'll come over here and I'll burn some incense, whether it's sage, Palo Santo, copal, or frankincense. I definitely like the resins. And shout out to Awaken to the One on Instagram, who is a Chart Guys member and has given me copious amounts of frankincense to burn. But that just sets the mood, get my music going, and sit down at the computer. So these days it's Chill Hop on YouTube that I listen to. There's a live stream that just plays 24/7. Get on the computer, catch up in the chat room, answer any questions, catch up on any threads, look at the futures trading room, look at the commodities room, look at the cryptocurrency room, because those things are seeing the most happen overnight as I'm trying to catch up on things.
So after catching up on the chat room, I go and put out an annotated chart on Bitcoin to see what I feel is the most likely scenario. Right now, the 4-hour time frame is trading sideways, so there's not a whole lot going on. But I post that chart, then I open up Fidelity, and Fidelity, I'll have my Active Trader Pro open, and from there, I do the morning whiteboard. So the morning whiteboard is something I update every morning for members, except for Thursdays when Dinsey does it, but I look at the most clear setup. I pretty much look at the entire market. So here's the whiteboard. First thing I post is the events for the day, financial events that could have impact on the markets. Then I go through and I do all the major names, and I just write down a little paragraph, a few sentences of what is the most likely scenario in my opinion. So just as an example from Friday, on SPY, big gap up to potentially change the daily trend today and keep us in the weekly equilibrium. I expect to remain within this weekly equilibrium for another couple of weeks. We are $9.50 from all-time highs, $11 above our key support. Anything on the hourly above 290.204 is an hourly high or low. So going through here, I look at the hourly time frame first, and then when I need levels outside of the hourly, I look at the daily time frame. So I know the daily trend, I know the hourly trend, and I'm doing that for SPY, IWM, QQQ. Then I go into the individual names: Amazon, Facebook, NVDA, Netflix, Apple, Tesla, Google, CMG. I then look at the financial sector, the miners, biotech sector, volatility index. Then I look at the MJ sector and I do individual support and resistance levels, which requires me looking at the daily and hourly time frames for all the major MJ players. And then I wrap it up doing that for gold, oil, natural gas, and the dollar. So by the time I'm done here doing the morning whiteboard, it's been about 30-40 minutes, and I've looked at all facets of the market, and I'm very comfortable with where we stand for the morning. Some mornings, direction is not very clear, and that's when we like to trade less. And other mornings, it's very clear. We're looking for a daily lower high. We're looking for hourly uptrends to be lost to indicate that. And when correlation is really strong, this whiteboard goes by fast because everybody's doing the same thing as SPY. And it's very easy to know what SPY is doing and then to apply that to everybody else and then just note the little differences. And as far as correlations go, by looking at all these little individual names, I see correlations. And for example, if I'm looking at the tech sector and we have a gap down open on SPY and we have Apple, Facebook, Netflix, Google gapping down open, but Amazon is not gapping down open, that's very clear to me that it stands out. And I say, okay, well, if we see SPY with an hourly oversold bounce this morning, the Amazon bulls are prepared. They're holding on better than the other names, and they are set up to potentially benefit more from an hourly oversold bounce. So significant help with correlations by going through everything. And this is an example of where running the chart, guys, is without a doubt a mutually beneficial relationship for me in this instance, because if I were trading on my own, I would without a doubt be more lazy in the sense that I would not be this regimented, putting in this 40 minutes every single morning to write this all out. There would definitely be a lot of mornings where I would skip this and I wouldn't do it and I wouldn't be as prepared as a trader. So that discipline of, knowing that others are relying on me is a big motivator. and that helps me stay very prepared each morning.
So after my initial morning run on the computer, I then do some CBD, whether I smoke a little bit sometimes or other times I'll just do the tincture. And it's nice to have a local source in town where we know the woman that grows this and the woman that extracts this, and she's very stringent on her scientific approach and keeping all the junk out of it. And we're certainly in a race for profit for a ton of people and a ton of companies in the CBD space. And you better believe that a lot of people are cutting corners and product quality is going down in that environment. So good to know from a trusted source that that's not the case.
So now probably about 3 or 4 days out of the week, I get in my car after the morning whiteboard and go get a coffee. And it's number one about coffee, but number two, it's about getting out of the house. I got to get out of the house. I can't just be there the entire day. And it's important for me to, again, take my mind off the charts now. This is a little intermittent break where I'm not staring at the screen and staring at the charts. I've already done that. I've set my preparation. I now get in the car. I like my music routine, jam out for 20 minutes and focus on the road and driving and other things. I'll observe, nature and the garden after I get back from my coffee. If it's the spring or summer, I'm watering plants or feeding the ducks. If it's the winter, I'm going to be establishing a new routine, whether it's stretching or something else inside because it'll be cold out, but still staying off the computer from pretty much 7:30 to 8:30, and that helps keep me sane.
So I've got my coffee now. Now it's back to getting onto the computer. At about 8:30, I start to go through and I read all the YouTube comments, all the Twitter comments, all the StockTwits interactions, and I respond to those that warrant interaction. And from there at 9 a.m. I go live and first I go through my rundown of what I'm looking at, and then I take requests from members, 1 or 2 tickers, and go through those charts. And what I really like about that aspect, if I'm picking a play and I'm highlighting my most likely setup, which I definitely do every morning, there's a bias there. There's a bias of what I feel is most likely to happen and what I would like to happen to see a trade setup take place. When people ask me about individual tickers, sometimes they'll specify if they want longer term, looking at it swing trading or day trading, but they don't generally tell me whether they want it up or down. And so that keeps me completely unbiased in my analysis, where I don't care if the stock goes up or down. I don't know what direction they want it to go. And I just give my analysis in a completely unbiased way. And in my opinion, that's the best way to do it, because otherwise there's always little hidden biases if there is financial gain for me. If I'm not trading the ticker, I don't care what direction it goes. So I really like that aspect. And then we go live at 9 a.m. Eastern. Good morning, everybody. It is Fake Day, October 13th, 9 a.m. The S&P 500 is flat as it's not open. And then we go live from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Stop at 10:30, get off the computer for 10 minutes, take a lap, go get a drink or whatever, walk outside, and then I'm back on the computer until noon. At noon, I take an hour lunch break. I'll either go pick a salad out of the garden, I'll sometimes drive down the road to the deli to get some lunch, or
I like to nap. I haven't been napping recently, but you better believe when the winter comes rolling around and being outside will be less of a thing, that I will be napping in the middle of the day. I know it's not the case for everybody to be good at napping, but I can lay down and put my head on a pillow and be asleep in 5 minutes and then wake up 15 or 20 minutes later without setting an alarm. And my body is just really good at doing that. And I would attribute a ton of my productivity to napping. It was an everyday, I would say, since I started we started the Chart Guys 4+ years ago, I would say that I have napped maybe 70% of the days that I've been going through the routine. And that's what keeps me fresh and keeps me sharp the entire day. Because sometimes, if I don't nap, I can feel it at about 3 p.m. and then 4 p.m. and then I make my videos after hours. That definitely starts to add up and I definitely start to feel a little bit groggy. So napping is important for me. The sleep cycle, of course, have to have a good sleep cycle. I go to bed early to wake up early and get a good amount of sleep, and that nap just is the icing on the cake. So after the bell rings at 4 p.m., I go live again at 3:15 to 4 p.m. to give a rundown into the end of the day, and then the bell rings and I start doing those videos. So what those videos do, the daily videos, the MJ video, the market video, and the Bitcoin video I'll do in the middle of the day. That keeps me on top of things. I have the intro of my morning, I have the market trading day, and then it's almost like a recap, reminding myself, okay, this is all what happened, this is where we stand now, and that just carries right over into my morning preparation the next day. I know what the daily charts look like because of those end of day videos, so when I wake up the next morning and I look at the hourly charts, I know how they fit into the bigger picture. So it is this continuity that keeps me in the zone when I'm doing this routine throughout the week, one day to the next, and that's important for staying on my A game.
Can't forget my little chipmunk friend. Every morning he comes out and does his rounds, and I throw some sunflower seeds out there for him and watch him stuff his fat little cheeks full. But he plays around on these rocks all morning, so he's certainly a part of the routine.
That's my breakdown of how I schedule my day. And feel free to share your own little tidbits as well, maybe things that you share similarly or things that you do differently. Again, everybody is different, so no one's routine is going to be the same. But it is important that we find a comfortable routine to get ourselves in. But it's also important we stay sane as well. It's always that balance. Thanks again, and we'll see you when the market opens.